Hello everybody, my name is Shiri Katz and I'm going to be your guide on the side in this course, Hebrew in the Jewish World. I'm excited about teaching this course because all my experience so far, the years in Israel and 18 years here in the US kind of lead to this course. I came from Israel 18 years ago after specializing in memory and language development, specifically in aphasia, which is a breakdown of the language system where a person loses his ability to understand speech or produce speech. And I gave workshops in memory enhancements actually mostly to teachers. And I came here because I wanted to specialize in dyslexia. Eventually I found myself in a very fascinating lab. It was called the Infant Speech Perception Lab in Detroit, which has 80% of African American population. And that gave me a wonderful opportunity to do research, to do my PhD on how mothers foster language learning in infants, 7 months old, in African American English and Standard American English. Infant-directed speech, which is a very unique prosody, a very unique music of language that we mothers, fathers, caregivers, and preschool teachers and teachers do, is a facilitator factor in learning a language. And that's one of the parts in the chapter language learning, language acquisition and language teaching, will talk about prosody, about this music of language. So I came here 18 years ago, I completed my PhD, and I moved from Detroit to Boston about 10 years ago to do a postdoc, researching a database of Latino children of immigrants from Latino-speaking countries, and how they not so much benefit, how they're being kind of damaged emotionally and behaviorally if we withdraw them from the mother tongue, if we put them in immersion programs in the US, in the Boston area, and then they have some disconnect with their older generation, with their parents who do not speak English and do speak Spanish. There is some attrition of the Spanish language. We researched the psychological effects of this. I'm a fervent advocate for keeping Hebrew in Israeli families, and now an advocate of trying to teach Hebrew as a heritage language and additional languages to children who are coming from monolingual families who speak English. Recently, I worked in some Jewish schools in the Boston area, and I worked with children who have learning disabilities. So another question that I want to address in our course is, do we teach a second language, sounds more difficult than one language, to children who have some kinds of language-based difficulties? The answer is going to be yes, provided that we do the right things. While I was teaching in Jewish schools, I taught some courses in speech-language pathology in some universities in the Boston area, such as Emerson College. And it was very fascinating to teach speech pathologists who are in the field, teach them the theory and even research methods. How do you gather data to see that your method really works? And this is the crux of our course. How do we use theories? How do we learn from theorists, their principles? How do we use data and findings, hopefully current findings, very cutting-edge findings about language acquisition and thus language teaching to benefit our teaching in any setting you are. It could be home if you're caregivers of children, teachers in preschool, or teachers in a preschool in a day school, or teachers in preschool in a synagogue. Some of these topics are debatable. Some of them belong to one school, and then there is an opposing school that disagree with the first school. Some of them have traditional methods versus more current methods. I will try to introduce you, being your guide, with a continuum in one topic of ideas and thoughts about a topic that we will cover, such that you as teachers, autonomic thinkers, will choose where you stand in this continuum and be able to employ, to apply what we learned from what you feel about this topic in your educational settings. Thus, we have 5 topics that we will cover. And in each topic, we will learn the background story, which is the theory and findings, and then we'll try and succeed to apply the theory to everyday activities in the classroom, such as morning routine, such as teaching a song, such as interactive games that kids will respond to each other and to you. We will learn some important principles of this regard, such as the principle that children at the beginning of learning a new language, they do not talk much. They listen, and it's okay that they listen. They take in, they derive some rules of the language, And maybe 18 months after they start listening to the language, we will hear them combining two words to a sentence, similarly to their first language. So in each topic, we'll have the theory and the application. Allow me to share with you the topics I chose to cover or discuss in our course. And I have to say that I do expect us to learn from each other. We're a community of learners. So I'm very excited to teach you, people who are interested in teaching other children, because some of you have experience or some of you have aspirations of what you want to do and expectations. And I'd love to learn from you. What are your insights or experiences, things that you already did? So the first topic is going to be a background topic. It's like preparing the soil. And it's all about what's happening in bilingualism in the world. There is this thought, and it does appear in the media, that in the US there is a high percentage of monolinguals. This is not true. However, this is the common thought. So I'm going to show us data about what's happening in Europe, in Canada, and the US. And even more interestingly, we'll dive into the motivations that drive different countries and states to teach their children a second language. There is a very interesting shift from a melting pot that happened in the US and in Israel to multi-languages and pluralism of culture and languages. Another chapter, the next one, which is a very core chapter in our course, will be how does the brain, how do children and the later adults acquire a second and a first language? The acquisition of these two are similar and different depending on the age that a person starts to learn a language. So we'll learn some principles, and I'll try to introduce you with an array of thoughts about it. I have the thought I believe in, I have the school of thought I adhere to, but I would like you to choose what you feel is the right one. And these will be accompanied by data. Our third topic is going to be the cognitive benefits and challenges of teaching a second language. What is not so known in acquiring a second language are the cognitive benefits to working memory, benefits to phonological segmentation, which is a big word for our ability to detect rhyme and rhythm, our ability to know when a word starts and begins. These things support language understanding and language learning. So people do know that when you teach a child Hebrew or another language, Spanish, he would be more marketable, would be able to communicate with family and with friends later on. But people are not always very knowledgeable about the cognitive benefits for the first language. So when we teach a second language, we actually support the first language as well. The last topic is going to be why Hebrew, why specifically Hebrew. So we will show that teaching a heritage language, a language that is supported by holidays, traditions, minhagim, is creating the optimal context for teaching any language, because the child has to be immersed in icons, images, sounds, activities that belong to that language. And this is what Judaism does. Judaism is a way of life. So conveying this way of life also in the main language that the Jewish people talk today is very beneficial for the learning process. In this course, because we are a community of learners, I do expect you to respond on the discussion board. So each material that is uploaded has a guiding question that you're asked to respond in the discussion board, and my role will be to respond to your responses. And the first interactive assignment is an assignment similar to what I do now, where you record yourself for 2 minutes and telling me about you. So I shared my name, and now I'll share the fact that I'm a mother for 4 boys who are bilingual, and 2 of them are trilingual, because I'm very fervent about teaching kids languages. I live in the Boston area, and I teach courses in the universities this year. And that's it. So thank you very much.